In every workplace, in every relationship, in every social circle, there's a rule everyone knows. If there's a misunderstanding, explain yourself. If someone's upset with you, clarify your intentions. If you're misunderstood, set the record straight. Communication is key, right? Transparency builds trust. Honesty strengthens bonds. That's what we are told. That's what he believed. Until he learned the rule nobody tells you. Explaining yourself to people who've already decided what to think of you isn't communication. It's begging them to see you differently. And begging, no matter how articulate, never earns respect. From childhood, we are taught the visible rules of social interaction. Use your words. Express yourself clearly. Don't leave people guessing. If someone misunderstands you, it's your responsibility to explain. If there's conflict, it's your job to communicate better. If someone thinks poorly of you, you haven't made your case well enough. The entire self-help industry is built on this premise. Better communication solves everything. Active listening. I statements. Clear, calm explanations of your perspective. We are told that people are reasonable, that they want to understand, that if you just explain yourself well enough, clearly enough, patiently enough, they'll get it. He believed this completely. When his boss questioned his work, he explained his process. In detail. With examples. With data. When a friend misunderstood his intentions, he wrote long messages clarifying what he meant. When his partner was upset, he explained himself. Over and over. Different words. Different approaches. Trying to make them see his side. He thought this was maturity. Emotional intelligence. Taking responsibility for being understood. He thought if he could just explain it right, they'd understand. But they never did. Not because his explanations weren't good enough. Because explanation wasn't what they wanted. Here's the hidden rule he didn't know. When someone has already formed an opinion about you, explanation doesn't change their mind. It confirms they have power over your need to be understood. Every time you explain yourself to someone who's already decided, you're not providing clarity. You're demonstrating that their opinion matters more to you than your own peace. Think about what happens when you over-explain. You present your case. Carefully. Logically. With nuance. And they listen. Maybe they nod. Maybe they even say, I understand. But nothing changes. Because they weren't confused. They were committed to their narrative. And your explanation, your desperate need to be seen differently, just proves something to them, that you care what they think, that their judgment has weight, that you need their approval enough to defend yourself. He learned this in a meeting. He'd proposed an idea. A good one. But someone senior dismissed it. Not with logic. Just dismissed it. And he explained why it would work, what the data showed, how it solved the exact problem they were facing. The more he explained, the more they dug in. Not because his explanation was bad. Because his need to explain made him look desperate. Like he was trying to convince them he was smart, capable, worth listening to. He was making a case for himself. And making a case for yourself is what people do when they're not sure they have value. People who know their worth don't explain it. They state it. Or they don't. But they don't beg you to see it. And that's what explanation becomes when you do it too much, to the wrong people, for the wrong reasons. Begging. Begging them to see you differently. Begging them to change their mind. Begging them to give you the validation you should be giving yourself. There's another layer to this rule that makes it even more brutal. The more you explain, the guiltier you look. It's a psychological trap. When someone accuses you of something, even implicitly, even subtly, your instinct is to defend yourself, to clarify, to provide context, to explain why they're wrong. But here's what they see. Someone who feels the need to defend themselves must have something to defend against. Innocent people don't explain endlessly. They state the truth and move on. It's the same reason I'm not racist, but makes everyone assume you're about to say something racist. The defensive preamble suggests guilt. The over-explanation suggests you know you did something wrong and you're trying to talk your way out of it. He saw this happen to a colleague once. Someone accused her of taking credit for someone else's work. Not directly. Just implied it in a meeting. And she explained. For 10 minutes. Who did what? When? How the collaboration worked. Why it was actually her idea. Everyone in the room got quieter and quieter. Not because they were convinced. Because she looked guilty. An innocent person would have said, "That's not what happened," and moved on. But she explained, and explained, and explained, and every word made her look worse. Because explanation, when you're already under suspicion, looks like a cover-up. The truth doesn't need that much defending. The punishment for over-explaining isn't dramatic. Nobody tells you you've lost respect. Nobody explicitly says you seem weak. It's subtle, insidious. People stop taking you seriously. Not all at once. Gradually. They start talking over you, dismissing your ideas faster, assuming your perspective doesn't matter as much, because you've trained them. You've shown them that you need their validation, that their opinion of you is something you'll work for, that you'll explain yourself until they approve. And people don't respect what comes to them too easily. They don't value perspectives from people who seem desperate to be heard. He noticed it first in small ways. His boss stopped asking for his input in meetings. Not overtly. Just stopped looking his way when decisions needed to be made. His friends stopped running things by him. They made plans without asking his opinion. Because his opinion came with a 10-minute explanation they didn't want to sit through. His partner stopped engaging with his explanations entirely. Okay, they'd say. Just okay. Not because they understood. Because they were tired of listening to him beg them to. He'd violated the hidden rules so many times that he'd fundamentally shifted how people saw him. From someone with value to someone who needed constant validation. From someone worth listening to someone who talks too much. From someone confident to someone desperate. And the cruelest part? He was trying so hard to be understood that he made himself invisible. Because people see past you when you explain too much. They stop listening to what you're saying and start noticing that you're saying it. That you need to say it. That you can't just let it go. It took him years to understand what he was doing wrong. Years of wondering why people didn't respect him the way they respected others. Others who said less. Explained less. Defended themselves less. People who seemed almost careless about being misunderstood. He used to think they were just confident. Now he realized they understood the rule. The rule he was breaking every time he opened his mouth to explain himself. So he started experimenting. Someone misunderstood his email. Took it the wrong way. His instinct was to write 3 paragraphs clarifying what he meant. Instead, he wrote, "That wasn't my intent." And said nothing else. The person apologized. A colleague questioned his judgment on a project. He wanted to explain his reasoning, his experience, why he knew what he was doing. Instead, he said, "I'm confident in this approach." And the questioning stopped. Not because he'd convinced them, because he didn't try to. His certainty was more convincing than any explanation could be. Someone close to him accused him of something he didn't do. His old self would have explained for an hour, provided evidence. Instead, he said, "That's not true," and walked away. Not because he didn't care, because he cared about his dignity more than he cared about their opinion. And something shifted. People started listening to him more. Not because he said more, because he said less. His words carried weight now, because they weren't diluted by his need to be understood. This rule, this invisible law that explanation is begging, shapes everyone you know. There are 2 types of people in the world. People who explain themselves constantly, and people who don't. Look around. You know them both. The person who always needs you to understand their reasoning, who can't let a misunderstanding sit, who follows up every decision with justification. They seem insecure, even when they're right, especially when they're right, because their need to be understood overwhelms their message. Then there are the others. The people who state things and move on, who don't defend themselves when accused, who let people be wrong about them, not because they don't care, but because they understand your dignity is worth more than someone else's understanding. We live in a culture that encourages over-explanation. Social media rewards it. Every tweet is followed by a thread clarifying what you meant. Every post comes with a disclaimer. Every opinion requires a preamble explaining your credentials to have it. We've been trained to believe that if we just explain ourselves well enough, clearly enough, thoroughly enough, people will get it. But that's not how respect works. Respect comes from boundaries, from knowing when to stop talking, from understanding that not everyone deserves your explanation. The people who matter, the ones who actually respect you, don't need endless explanations. They take you at your word. They trust your judgment. They don't require you to defend your worth to them. And the people who don't respect you, no amount of explanation will change that, because they're not confused. They've decided. And your explanation isn't information to them. It's entertainment, evidence of their power over you, proof that you need them to see you differently. Here's what he learned too late. You can't talk someone into respecting you. You can't explain your way into being valued. You can't make someone understand you who's already decided not to. The only thing you can do is stop trying. Stop explaining yourself to people who aren't listening. Stop defending yourself to people who've already made up their minds. Stop begging for understanding from people who don't want to give it. Because every time you explain yourself to someone who doesn't deserve it, you're teaching them something, that your need for their approval is greater than your respect for yourself. And once they learn that, you'll never get it back. Not with more words. Not with better explanations. Not by finally saying it right. The rule nobody tells you is this: some people will never understand you. And that's fine. Because your job isn't to make everyone see your value. Your job is to stop explaining it to people who never will. Explanation is a gift. Give it to people who've earned it. To people who are genuinely confused and want to understand. To people who respect you enough to listen. But when you give it to everyone, when you explain yourself to people who've already dismissed you, you're not communicating. You're begging. And begging, no matter how eloquent, no matter how right you are, will never earn you what you're asking for. Respect doesn't come from explanation. It comes from knowing when to stop.